And we are back with race 6 of the Waterford Wednesday Criterium series for 2022. We're 6 weeks now, or this is the 6th week of the 8-week first series for 2022. There'll be two 8-week series, so 3 races left, including this one. At this point in the series, I am in the series lead in terms of points, but to be honest, that's mostly because I haven't missed a race yet, and there are, as the results will shake out through the last 2 weeks. Clearly, two people ahead of me, the two racers who have finished 1 and 2 in the past 2 races, and finished well, throughout. And so, as the series only takes your best 6 out of 8 races, you can miss 2, or your lowest 2 get removed. And with those 2 racers missing a couple at this point, those will get nullified, and my worst ones will get dropped. And once it all shakes out, I'm really in third in the series, but I do technically come uh, in first place in this one. And looking at the last couple weeks, yeah, I keep getting beat up by by Gabe and Brandon, the people who have been taking 1 and 2 in each of the races. So really just trying to come up with a new technique, a new strategy for beating them. If I can beat them in the last 3 weeks consistently, then I stand a chance of winning the series. And so last week I made it into the break with both of them, and I wanted to work with them, not work as hard as them, take shorter pulls certainly, but be a part of it so they wouldn't attack me, and I could just try to stay in there until the end and try to out-sprint them. By joining the rotation, even with doing small pulls, I just wasn't able to stay with them, and I did get dropped after really only 10-12 minutes in the breakaway with them, and you had to drop back to the lower part of the field, and ended up one other person did bridge, and so by winning the bunch sprint, I took 4th last week. I'd taken 3rd both the 2 weeks before that one. Looking to try to improve this week. But, in terms of tactics, because staying with them and participating in the break didn't work, really we went into this week with the plan of really doing the opposite. Go in the break, but do absolutely no work, and just try to sit on their wheels, let them do all of the work, and try to be there at the end. Certainly, I think something I highlighted in last week's film was, as I joined the break, kind of how congenial the conversation was. You do some polls, and we'll be good, and we're not going to attack you, and I did, and it was a nice interaction. It was a nice time for the 10 minutes that I was able to be in it, admittedly. And so, the theme of this race is this week is certainly going to be, I think, how to make enemies and piss people off. So a little bit different interaction, I think, this week with the change in tactics. And really to that point, I'm just going to apologize in advance. I think it's going to be hard to cut some of this film out, just because it really was the way the race came out. It was just vastly different than the previous weeks. It was a lot of cat and mouse, a lot of attacking, really just to try to rip me to shreds. And for my part, I did stay with them much longer this week than I did in previous weeks, so the strategy worked out certainly. In terms of time in the break, in terms of results, as we'll see, it really didn't help or hurt me. Kind of ended up where I've been ending up anyway. But it really was a fun race. It was an interesting race, just very different, and again, I think it's gonna be fun, at least for me, to kind of talk through how awful this race was throughout it. So I'll certainly try to cut some of the lulls out, but it was certainly a fascinating race to be in. Hurt me a lot, and so let's let it roll. So the first attack ends up happening at about a lap and a half in, so we'll just jump to there real quick. Okay, so Brandon's on the front, and we're going to see our first attack come. It was a breath of fresh air, not from Brandon or Gabe. So we're going to have one morning Cranks rider come up on the right side here on attack, and they actually came with I think 7 riders today. So this isn't necessarily super surprising, right? Use their numbers to do a bunch of attacks, and as the field then accelerates to catch up, then another attack from somebody else in the field, and try to hit those multiple times to burn out the field and hopefully burn out Brandon, ideally. So again, certainly the tactic makes sense because they had the numbers to do that. And really, they're the only team that had any numbers. So it makes sense early on in the race for them to do that. I think the problem with the tactic is just that Brandon is so much stronger than everyone seemingly. So I don't think this tires him out at all. And we're going to see sort of the net result here. So, Brandon's putting in a dig, and a Kalon rider also is putting in the dig to kind of catch back to that group. And as we come around this corner, we're going to end up catching back up to the first Morning Cranks rider, and we'll quickly see the second attack from another Morning Cranks rider come, I think, here from the left side. And yep, there we go. There's the second one, and Brandon reaccelerates. And so really, all through this race, my only job was, until there's a break and Gabe's up there too, really just to sit on Brandon's wheel the entire race. Just all I'm doing. I think he already knows that at this point. But I'm just sitting there. He reaccelerates. He's going to catch the next Morning Cranks guy who went. And because he has unlimited power, he also attacks just out of that, right? So now Morning Cranks has 2 other guys who just use up all their energy to do the break, kind of in that weaker position now, and he can go. I do think maybe 1 or 2 of them. I think one of those 2 ends up jumping back on and staying on. I don't remember, but it makes sense. Again, tactically to do that here early on in the race, it just didn't quite work. He just keeps going. So again, I'm just sitting here around this wheel. Want to make sure that if this is when the break forms, still fairly early on in the race, that I'm on it. I think I looked back here at one point, and there is a break. 5 or 6 or 7 people on it. So it's there's a decent sized group here, but I think we did separate from the field this early on in the race. And so now that we have a group of 5 or so, Brandon's actually just going to pull for the next 2.5 minutes with no rotation, or you don't see anybody else come into the field. I'll just sit second wheel, so we'll jump ahead 2.5 minutes. Okay, so this is going to be my first mistake, I'd say, of the race. Not a big one. I don't think it certainly didn't impact my finish at the end of the race, but just a silly mistake. So he throws his elbow and goes off to the side, and I don't want to take a pole. I'm not looking to do that. So I also slow down, but I can't. I don't go directly behind his wheel where I should have. Instead, I kind of pull, and now you see Gabe off to the right. He kind of accelerates and attacks, and now I'm back on the back of it. And the concern here is that these 2 right in front of me won't be able to bridge, and you can see that gap forms immediately. And so now I have to push to go get back up to that group. I went to the very back and had to put in an extra effort to dig once I could see those 2 weren't going to be able to bridge, or weren't going to make the attempt to bridge and make me do it. Whatever tactically the reason was, I just got kind of stuck there for a second and had to put in a little extra effort. Again, not a big deal, just wasted effort that I didn't need to in the moment. But now we're back here again, exactly where the plan was for me to be the entire race, which was directly behind Brandon. So now it's kind of sitting 4th wheel, and taking it fairly easy, just waiting for the next attack to happen, which I know is going to happen. These 2 just want it to be a field of 2. They want it to be the 2 of them. And so they're going to try to get rid of each of these. So we see Gabe go backwards, and I don't slot in front of him. I slot in behind him. Really, in my mind, I just want to be behind the 2 of them, and see. I think they're going to want to spend most of this race together, and so I'm going to sit behind the further back of the 2 and let them rotate. I don't want to interfere with their rotation so much, because the faster they kind of rotate together and do their work, the more likely it is the brake will stick, and so that works for me. So, as he pulls off, Gabe goes in front. I just move back to the left and behind Brandon. And if this is how the race went the rest of the race, it would be amazing. But certainly there's no reason for them to let this be how the race goes for the rest of it. They'll just be giving me a free ride to the end. And so I know eventually they're going to attack hard. First to get rid of the guys behind us, but also to get rid of me. And again, because I know guys will start dropping, right? That's what's happened every other break. I really do want to be third wheel the entire time. I don't want another gap to form like it did before, about a half a lap to a lap ago. I want to make sure I'm always right there third wheel, or at least directly behind these two. If somebody's in front of them, that's fine, obviously. But so here I do accelerate in front, and I think that just is how it happened to be. I still would have liked to have had Gabe just slot in front of me, but didn't quite happen. Now we're getting a little bit of the, I don't know, mind games, get out of my draft. I don't know, keeping me on my toes. That'll happen kind of throughout the race. But, a little bit of serpentining. But, stayed on it. Probably had to put a little more extra energy because of it. But, we got some good speed going. And I'm not, having to put out a ton of watts here. So this currently feels good. We'll just wait to see, what happens with Gabe. Does Gabe attack out of this? Does he come back out in front of me? I know something's going to happen. We're still super early on in the race. But we do actually settle in here for a little bit, and Brandon just does all of the pulling for the next 4.5 minutes or so. So we'll skip ahead to the next attack. Okay, so we've jumped ahead, and we're going to see sort of a preview for how the rest of this race is going to go with this tactic. So what we see is Gabe goes on a break from the left side there, and Brandon doesn't respond. Just holding steady and letting Gabe get a big gap. Again, and no one else chased either. So Gabe's now off the front, and the tactic here is going to be, once that break is big enough, then Brandon will attack out of this group to bridge up to him, with the kind of expectation that will drop the rest of the breakaway, or a good portion of it. And it certainly works. It certainly hurts. So again, this is, I say a preview, but really this is just the beginning of the tactics for the rest of the breakaway. And so again, nothing really happening here. Well, he lets this one go for quite a while. This one's a little interesting. I think some lessons learned for others in the break. When you got a guy who is strong, don't help him. Don't do any pulls. You could right now, if you wanted to, if you felt good, you could bridge up to Gabe. But there's no reason to come up here. As we see, one rider come up here and take a turn at the front, trying to bring the whole group back. I don't know if the thought was, maybe Brandon's tired and can't put out that effort, so I'm going to go up there and help us bridge back. But Brandon was not bridging up there on purpose. This was the tactic so that he could gun it and get back up to Gabe, and so there's no reason to go to the front and help him out. What I knew was going to happen here already, and you'll see happen as we come around the turn back to the start-finish line is, we have the rider out front. He's going to wear himself out doing the pull, and as soon as he's done, Brandon's just going to gun it. That's a guaranteed one drop. Probably, his goal is to drop everybody off of these attacks, and this is just an easy one. If somebody's going to wear themselves out, then unfortunately you can go. So, this is the B race. These are learning experiences. Usually I'm learning from my own mistakes. Happy to learn from somebody else's for once. I certainly make enough mistakes myself throughout these races. But yeah, so we're coming around this corner. And so coming around here, I think he throws his elbow here at some point to say, hey, okay, I've had enough of a turn. You please take to your turn. And like that's just not how it's gonna go, right? So we're, Brandon doesn't go. Brandon baits him into taking an additional pull on the front. He throws his elbow again, and we're gonna see Brandon just go here, just crank out some watts. Should be right here in the corner. And I'm already shifted. I'm on my drops. I'm ready to go. I know it's gonna happen. And then here he goes. And so I just go to follow him. And it's just time to bridge. And it's just a ton of watts. Even just being the one in the draft. These were exhausting, and there's a bunch of these all throughout the rest of the break. Something I could get better about is at high speeds and at high power, being able to still stay right on his wheel. You can see I sling as we come around corners. I slingshot way to his left, way to his right. Part of it is as I accelerate, I don't want to hit him. But really, it's not great bike handling skills. At that high power, you really want to be in that draft. And and he's on a 58 bike today, he's borrowing a bike, so he's high up there. He's a little bit taller. It's not quite like Gabe. Gabe is pretty small. You don't get as much of a draft. But here, I can get a draft, but I do bounce left and right, losing some of that draft. So something to continue to work on. But I don't know how many we dropped here. If we dropped everybody, or if one or two are still behind us, because again, it was a group of 5. But right here, I'm just heads down. I'm just pretty much looking at his tire, making sure that not that I'm not going to hit it, but make sure that I'm kind of close enough to it, make sure it's not going out of my field of view. And that pretty much this backstretch every time, that's about what it was. Using the slingshot way to the left again, then get right back behind him. Again, just got to work on those bike handling skills around these corners and try to stay in the draft. But now we've bridged back up to Gabe, which means it's gonna be time for more cat and mouse. More of this exact same tactic is just gonna continue to happen. So as we get back up to Gabe, what you see is I slot in behind Gabe, so I take this position of number 3 perpetually throughout the entire race. And kind of in hindsight, I don't know what the right strategy is. Could I have maybe just always stayed behind Brandon? And so as you'll see, kind of the tactic is, maybe Brandon goes next. Brandon goes up and Gabe holds back, and then Gabe bridges. Maybe I could have just, anytime Brandon went to go do a break, I just stay with him. And then, because the whole point is to kind of, tear me to shreds, maybe by staying in the back and going with the guy who then bridges up is actually hurting me more than had I just gone with the initial, go with the first bridge. And then maybe they just shut it down, because what's the point? I don't know, maybe that would have been the strategy. So we actually see, Gabe jumps out in front. This time Brandon accelerates to stay with him, so I accelerate. But, back to the point. So I don't know, at that point, if the whole point is to create a gap that then the second person attacks and bridges to tear me apart, thinking they're both stronger than me, if I go with the front bridge, that first attack, they're not as strong of attacks, right? What they do is the first guy slowly accelerates, medium accelerates, creates the gap. The other guy purposely holds back, and then surges at 1,000 watts to bridge back to him. Well, if I go with the first guy, who's actually not attacking that hard, it's probably an easier one for me, and maybe it's not even worth it for them, and they shut it down. I don't know. In hindsight, maybe that's what I could have done. It's not what I do. This entire this entire break, I sit third, and whoever does the attack, I don't follow, and then when the second guy bridges it, that's who I follow. So, I don't know. Maybe this was the right strategy. Maybe that would have been worse. Just something to think about. And so now we're going to see. So, yeah, you see. Brandon's he's not surging. I mean, we just saw what he looked like when he bridged. He bridged hard. This is just, a gradual acceleration that I easily could stay with. But this is the tactic that they're going with, right? And maybe I'm playing right into the hand. Maybe maybe it's still the right one. But Gabe just said, go on. I'll try to shed him and shred him this time instead. So now we hold back. Brandon creates a gap, and I know what's coming. Just try to figure out when it's gonna happen, and go with it. I don't know. I just keep thinking about it. Maybe I should have just gone with the front guy. Maybe it makes it not worth it. I'm not sure. Alright, so we're coming around the final bend back to the start-finish line. You can kind of see Brandon way out there in front of us. We're doing just an easy 22 miles here. There's a little bit of a headwind on that corner, so certainly makes you go a little slower than really, the watts are probably would be indicating. But we're not going crazy fast, right? Just nice, easy pace. Let Brandon create that gap, and Gabe's then gonna bridge to it and try to drop me. Gabe's definitely a lot lighter than me, and so my expectation is his attack on me would come on the hill, which would make sense. And so this is where it starts to tilt up, and this is where he starts to attack, which totally makes sense. I weigh 195. I don't know how much he weighs, but it's significantly less than 195, and so it isn't surprising. I mean, this one he had to wait a little bit anyway to create the gap to bridge to. But this is, if I was him, this is where I would have attacked. I'm not sure if I would have attacked in that corner. It's a little bit of a rise, but it's not that big of one. Whereas obviously this hill here is the real hill on the course, and it gets up to 5% or so. So this is where I was expecting him to really try to attack me. And you can see him, getting out and putting in the watts. But I'm able to stay with him. Able to really stay with. Well, I was able to stay with all of these attacks until the one I couldn't stay with at the end. So, which is kind of how that works. But able to stay with this one. Certainly, it hurt. I was feeling these, but I felt like this tactic might actually work. I've been in the break now for a while. Although these attacks, these bridges were hurting me, they weren't completely killing me, and so I was holding out hope that maybe I'd be with them at the end by this point in it. Now you can see he is starting to get a little bit away from me. Like I said, on this backstretch, I just kept putting my head down and just looking at that wheel and making sure I was close enough to it, so I do accelerate a little bit back up so that he was close enough to me, but he did start to get away there for a second. A little bit of a lull, a little bit of just kind of being tired, right? He put in a good attack that I had to respond to, and started to make a little bit of a gap, but I was able to close that down, certainly. And pretty much the exact same spot where we caught, the roles were reversed. Now we're catching Brandon. So I will say, this certainly wasn't my favorite tactics in the world. As the guy who's kind of a sprinter, and I don't know if I could beat both of them in a sprint, but if I'm going to beat them, that would probably be where I would do it. It's the smartest tactics, right? Do none of the work. You just try to sit in and survive until the end. But, it's a mid-week crit, B race. There isn't thousands of dollars on the line. I'm not trying to make enemies here. It's just, so I would have liked to have participated just from that aspect. Certainly this wasn't probably the tactics they were going for and that they wanted to do. And so, kind of disrupting the way they want to do it. But, for those crits that are big payouts, down the line, you got to practice the tactics that work for you. So it's a practice race, and I got to practice the tactics I might use later. So I don't know. It was interesting. Again, just cognizant of not trying to make enemies here. Okay, so we're gonna see Gabe go back off the front, and this is my next mistake that I made. So as he goes, I kind of go on the inside, and Brandon really slows down, and for the first time all race, I'm in front. You can see my reaction to being in front as I throttle down to the very low 200s, but even 70 watts there for a second, and I start doing kind of a serpentine, really just trying to watch him. At some point, I assume he's gonna attack, and so I'm just trying to watch where he's at and be ready to go for when he attacks. But I should have gone way to the left and been behind him. I should have never allowed him to get in behind me. Now, I will say that with this tactic, we have, I'm just trying to look at the time here, maybe we have 10 minutes left in this race at this point, and Gabe's now off the front. If Brandon's okay with Gabe winning, which Brandon's won the last 2 races, I think, back-to-back, and Gabe's taken second, so in my head I'm already at this point thinking, okay, Brandon's probably fine with Gabe winning. They've kind of worked as a team, and so Gabe's gone. Unless I wanted to bridge to him right now all on my own, which I don't, because I'm tired, and Brandon's actually the first person who is in second right now in the series, so I would like to finish above him more than I want to finish above Gabe. I think they're both going to beat me long term anyway, but if I have to be in front of somebody, that's who I want to be in front of, and so maybe I can just take second. And so I'm just kind of doing no watts and just seeing when he attacks. But what I'm thinking is, we've been doing this, cat and mouse has not been overly fast, and so maybe the group is behind us somewhere. And if that group catches all of us, well, with 3 laps to go, that might kind of work out for me, in that now I can kind of try to win a bunch sprint that includes Brandon in it. And so here's actually, I'll stop talking about that for a second, to say, the rider who just passed us, I honestly, and I don't know why, in my mind, this was like a lapped rider, or this was, which we had passed a couple of people, I thought, throughout the race, or it was like an A warming up, because we were in, I know I'm talking about the peloton catching us, but I assumed it would be a big group of people, and I saw this guy pass us without at all thinking that he was somebody who now is technically he's in second, in front of us. I just didn't think he was part of the first lap and a part of our race, so it just paid him no mind at all. But what you just see is Brandon did finally attack from behind me, and I jumped back on his wheel. We did pass that guy who is in the break. He is on the same lap as us. This whole time you'll see that come back to haunt me again here in a half a lap, but just was in no way was thinking he was a part of our race. That is, and again, I don't know, did I think he was part of the lapped field or part of the A race? The problem is you have these A's warming up for their race immediately after, and so you kind of get used to just people biking around while you're going and just assuming they're not part of your race. So I think that's kind of the downside of the setup here, is having the A's warming up while the B's are racing. Again, I should be cognizant though, and realize that, hey, this guy put in some effort. When Brandon repassed him, that guy put in some effort to get back on. That should have keyed me that, hey, this guy's part of this race, and so you need to pay attention to him. You just saw Brandon give Gabe the thumbs up. I'm assuming that's just yeah, you've won. Good job, buddy. Which he did. I mean, both of these two put in so much effort. And you see, kind of he puts in another dig here that I try to go with. And this is where I'm gonna end up getting dropped right here. I just, and my numbers aren't high. My heart rate's not that high. It got higher throughout. I was just done. How many matches do you have? I'm honestly really surprised I failed there, because we did just have a nice rest. There's no reason for my legs to give out right there, but I was just done. And here's that rider who had passed us, then we repassed him. And again, at this point, I still paid him no mind. I did not think he was a part of our race. didn't really pay attention to him, and for no good reason. Now that I'm watching the video, it's so obvious that he's a part of this lead group, and he's now in third place. I was tired. I think I probably could have jumped on his wheel with the expectation that Brandon could drop him, and it would just be the two of us fighting now for third place. But in my mind, I'm currently in third, and now I'm just looking behind me to see when is the next group coming, so that I can, recover, get on that group, and then beat them for the sprint. I 100% think I'm in third place right now, and I'm confident that I can do the right tactics to take third, which is really unfortunate because I am in fourth, and I'm putting in no effort to get into the podium because of that failure of kind of having that race awareness. So throughout this lap, I'm looking backwards. I see there's a group back there that's gonna, maybe eventually catch me, and I just can't commit to what I want to do. I go up to the threshold, into the low to mid 300s, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to stay away from them. And then I go, I don't know. Do I really want to do that? Maybe I just want them to catch up, and I'll try to out sprint them. No, I should probably try to stay away from them so I can secure third place. It turns out fourth place, but then I go hard and then I go easy, and I don't know what I want to do. Then you're gonna see that I'm thinking in my head, not paying attention. I'm tired. I don't know, whatever excuse you want. I'm just not paying attention, and I'm just gonna run off the road here. Yep, there I go, and I get back on. So, pretty obvious takeaway. Keep paying attention. I don't know I think maybe I was trying to see how many laps do I think are left, so I was looking at the time on my radar. I may have honestly just been looking down, just trying to get through. I think at that point, I was just trying to okay, what kind of power do I want to get out at? How can I just, get low and aerodynamic? And I just wasn't paying attention. So we're coming around to the start finish. I think this is now 2 laps to go right here. Let's see. Yeah, so 2 to go, and so the group is pretty close to me now, and so it's again I go up to 300 watts for a second and the group is just behind me. So either slow down, let them catch, and then do something, or try to stay away from them. I'm just terrible at committing to anything, but we're gonna. I think it's on this hill is. What we're going to end up having is behind me, there's the group of 5 or 6, and there's 2 morning crank guys, and once they're close enough, you'll have one of the 2 bridge up to me, and the other one stay back. And so, right now I'm just looking. I think he attacks just about here. He's trying to bridge up, and so I'm looking back. I see just the one bridging. So that's a different strategy than if all 6 of them are there. It's a bunch sprint. If just the one is going to bridge up to me, then it's, just one-on-one, sitting on his wheel and just trying to beat him at the end. So the only thing, kind of being caught on a hill, I want to make sure I had enough speed. Then I realized he was going to catch me on the downhill, which was perfect because I'm fat, and so I know I can make up that speed on the downhill. If it was on the uphill, he might fly by me because I was going so slow and he was bridging. But downhill's perfect. I slot right in. And again, the rest of that group didn't bridge up, so they're back. At this point, they're not going to catch us, I don't think. So now it's just the 2 of us, and I just have to keep rehashing, and this will come up in a little bit. I think we're battling for 3rd place, which is the podium. And so, since I think that, I don't want to do any work, which is kind of my theme in general, it turns out, in these commentaries, is not wanting to do any work. But, if we're going for the podium, and right now I'm sitting in 4th with 3rd right in front of me, then I absolutely just want to out sprint him for third. We're not gonna bridge up to anybody. We're not gonna, like, it's just 1 and 2 are done. So I want third place. And so he throws his elbow, and I just say, "Sorry, bud, like, not doing it." And that's for obvious reasons. There's just no reason to. But it turns out that third place is up in front of us. I'm assuming he got dropped by Brandon, so he's just up there alone. And if we rotate for a lap and a half, maybe we catch him. I don't know. Maybe we don't. But I just feel terrible. We could have worked as a group and maybe caught third place. And again, I think that I could try to out sprint both of them and still get it. But it's just unfortunate. All because I didn't realize that guy was a part of our race. Wasted that opportunity to get to third place. And so, I don't know. It's obnoxious. Now I'm just I'm also. This is a place where I was okay with the tactics throughout the break being the bad guy because I had to be. Here, I'm the bad guy because I wasn't paying attention. If I would have known that third place is up the road, I would 100% would have rotated with him, absolutely pushed it hard to try to catch back up. But I didn't, and so thinking that that's third place, there's no way I'm going to put in any effort. So we just passed the start-finish line. This is the final lap, and I heard no bell in the moment. I also just didn't hear it at all when we were going by. So they said 1 to go, but no bell. And I think both of us were. You'll see this at the ending. Neither one of us really push it. I just was unsure that if this was actually the finish or not. And so I don't know what happened there, but certainly less than ideal. Not knowing. Again, he said 1 to go. It's the final lap, but just very confusing. Not having that bell go along with saying 1 to go. So we see, a bit of an attack going up this hill. I'm like 97% sure it's the last lap at this point. Like I said, there's 3% of me that said I did not hear a bell. I don't think it's the last lap, but it's a 1 to go. I'm pretty sure it's the last lap. I was expecting a really big attack up that hill. That'd be a good place to potentially do it. Early again. Bober is lighter than me, and so that would have been one place to do it. Expecting it somewhere though. Maybe it's on the back stretch. But I'm just sitting on that back wheel, waiting for the early attack. I'm assuming he's not gonna let me do the sprint for the ending, and I'm not gonna leave it to the sprint. And so, as we come into the last, third of the lap, I'm just waiting for that attack. The other thing I'm wondering about at this point is, where is that group? And he looks backwards. I actually didn't throughout this last bit at all. I probably should have, but we aren't going particularly fast here, and so that group of 4 who didn't bridge, or 5, whatever it might be, they got to be getting pretty close here to be being behind us. And the last thing you want is them to come by at 25 miles an hour. So I probably should have been a little more vigilant about if they were coming or not. I talked to somebody who was in that group, and they did evidently get pretty close to us here at the end. They don't catch us, but here I'm thinking, okay, Bober's got to go, right? I think he's gonna attack. If this is the last corner before the end, he's got to go now. But he doesn't. We're doing 25 miles an hour through this. I'm doing 200 watts. This is the final corner. I'm used to starting my sprint right here, and there's just nothing happening. And so, I kind of come up next to him, putting out a little more watts. But we're doing 22. Now this is literally the last corner. We're 22 miles an hour, 300 watts. We're rolling in. I'm just looking at him like, okay, is he going to start a sprint? And I do finally kind of hit it a little bit, just for a second, just to secure what I thought was third place. So I literally, you can hear me ask him, like that was it, right? Like, why did you not sprint? Why did I not sprint? I didn't hear a bell. Like, what's going on? Should we be done? Like, it was the weirdest ending to a race. You hear multiple people saying, yeah, that's the end, right? Like, it was so weird. The fact that they didn't ring the bell, I think, just threw all of us off. And I actually roll around and I ask them, hey, why didn't you ring it? They said they did. I mean, we just watched the video again. They did not ring the bell on the last lap for us. Again, said 1 to go. It just, I don't know. It was weird, but it kind of ended up not mattering since we were battling for 4th and 5th, not 3rd and 4th. But still an unfortunate way to end that race. But did end up taking 4th in this one. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next week.